Talk a little bit about cash flow, because the public may not understand that that's a function that MMB also manages.
Cash flow is really an interesting dynamic because, like anyone's checkbook, your money comes in sometimes at different times. We get a lot of money, and as you might not be surprised, during the
April 15th.
April 15th is a number that's coming up pretty quick, right? And a lot of money comes in the first 3 or 4 months of the year. But also a lot of money goes out the door because of refunds. So many people overpay their taxes throughout the year, and so they get refunds around April 15th. So we try to match the revenue that's coming in with the payments that we have going out, but it doesn't always match very well, as you might not be surprised. We have a lot of payments that go out the door for local government aid the first part of the year, and then in December there's a second big payment in December. So our cash flow goes up and down quite a bit, and it can vary. $100 million in a month, and we have to try to make sure that we have enough cash on hand. So we have a cash account that's about $350 million, and we have a reserve account on top of that, which is a little over $1 billion now. We have a total of $1.3 billion in cash and reserves that we can rely on to pay those bills throughout the month. Now we can't use that money except for items that have been appropriated by the legislature. So we're tied to making sure that we do that. But in the years past, a few years ago, we found that the cash flow was such that we didn't have enough cash on hand at times. We had to do short-term borrowing. We've now gotten into a situation where our cash flow is sufficient to meet the ebbs and flows that come in each month. And in addition, we now have over $1.3 billion in the reserve, which is the highest reserve we've ever had in this state.
The question of the reserve comes up over the course of my time with this program because of the progressive nature of Minnesota's taxation and the fact that it is very sensitive to swings in the economy, up and down. And so I think there's been some discussion that maybe as large as the reserve is, it may not be large enough. And I'm wondering, does MMB have a position on that, or is that something you leave to the legislature?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I do recommend to the governor and to the legislature that we increase the reserve typically. We have a budget target, or reserve target. So right now, as I mentioned, we have $1.3 billion in total in what we call the rainy day fund, cash and reserve. But our economists believe that we should have about a little over $2 billion in that account, because they've got a target that says we should have 5.2% of the non-dedicated general revenues in a biennium, which we have about $40 billion of biennium non-dedicated revenues, times 5.2%, it's a little bit over $2 billion. So we would like to say, as an MMB commissioner, I would recommend to both the governor and to the legislature that we should continue to march toward that little over $2 billion number, because once again, the rating agencies that I mentioned, they'd love to see that figure between 4 and 5% of your revenues. Because if there's a downturn in the economy, that gives you that little bit of a cushion, kind of a shock absorber, before you start having to cut programs and whatever. So we're happy that it's gotten up a little bit higher. Now, we do have a new automatic reserve provision that was put in the law last year. So in 2013, the legislature added a new provision that the governor signed that says in November, we have 2 forecasts, November and February. And in November, if there's a positive balance for that forecast, meaning that there's more money we assume is coming in than what we're paying out, then 1/3 of that positive balance goes into the reserve account. This last year, in November, we had a little over $600 million in the forecast, and we put $183 million, or 1/3 of that, into the reserve account. So we have a mechanism to add to that every year if we have good forecasts coming forward.
One of the things that we've discussed here over the course of the last few weeks, and I think it might be wise to sort of remind viewers how this works. When we get a forecast that says, as the most recent forecast suggests, that there's going to be a surplus of somewhere north of $1.8 billion, that doesn't all come in the day after the forecast. Tell our viewers how that process works, and it might be useful to also talk about how accurate those forecasts have been over a fairly long period of time, to the extent you have that information.
This is such a critical function that we have with the economic forecast, because it's so critical to us maintaining our balance in our budget. So It's been designed for many years to have the November forecast and then the February forecast. And one of the reasons you want the November forecast is you want to be able to, for the governor or whatever governor is, to be looking toward the next year and what kind of funds are we short, or do we have enough funds for the next year, so he can start planning for the next legislative session. And then the legislature comes in, usually in January, February, and then we have the February forecast, which occurs after the end of the calendar year, because there's a lot of economic activity at the end of the calendar year because of the tax year change. So the February forecast really helps.
Consumer spending, sales tax, Christmas, et cetera.
I mean, the holiday season is tremendous. And you have a lot of people paying taxes at the end of the year in anticipation of that year. So there's a lot of things happening in December and January that you'll want to take into account. So it's that February forecast that we just had that's what we use to finish the legislative session with. As you mentioned, we have $1.8 billion that's forecast. But let me tell you the difference between a forecast balance and a forecast surplus. So what our economist does, Dr. Laura Kolumbakidis, is what she does is she works with her team, and they analyze the IHS is a firm that we use to give us their global perspectives about what's going on in the world. So we look at this global perspective, international changes, and they also look at the revenues coming into the Department of Revenue. They look at our expenditures, and they do the best they can to match up what's happening right now, what do we have in the bank, so to speak, and what do we owe. And then they also look at what's the future looking like. And that's why our forecast went up about $1 billion from November to February, as they saw increasing economic activity. So it's really critical that they obviously have to do their homework, come up with their best guess, and they make a projection. And so in February, they made a projection that we had a little over $1.8 billion of forecast balance. But of that $1.8 billion, about $450 million of that is in the current biennium. And that's money we say is really kind of in the bank. It's not quite here, but it's darn close. But the rest of it, the $1.4 billion, that's based on projections for July 1 through the next 2 years. And that is what we call a forecast balance, because it's not really a surplus, because it's not in the bank yet. So
and some of it extends into the next biennium.
Right. In fact, we have over $3 billion surplus anticipated for the 2018-2019 biennium. So we've got a balance. We have an actual balance of over $400 million. This biennium ends on June 30th. $1.8 billion balance for the next biennium, and over $3 billion balance for the biennium after that. So this is the best shape we've been in a long time.
So, but let's talk a little bit about the accuracy of that forecast. Do you have some statistics? I'm not asking for maybe level of detail here, granular level, but do you have some sense for how close those forecasts have been over multiple administrations in many years?
They do study that, and it's really interesting because the range of change is really is fairly static, and it doesn't change a whole lot. I don't have the number in front of me, or I can't remember it, but they are very accurate. And what happens is so often is it's the analysis of what's in the bank is always fairly accurate, obviously, and it's always the variability comes in the projection of what's going to happen over the next year. We've had occasions where the February forecast may say there's a balance of $1 billion, and when the recession hit, that $1 billion wasn't showing up in November even. So things can happen fairly dramatically, and those can really affect your accuracy. So the economy can really affect the accuracy quite a bit.
Some of our viewers may remember the farm crisis, the ag crisis, and sort of the general economic malaise, but in this state in particular, the economic difficulties that were present in the beginning in the early 1980 and the early 1980s, and the then governor of Minnesota, Al Quie, had 6 or 7 special sessions because the projections, the money did not come in, and budget cutting became a necessary tool to deal with some of those issues, as well as tax increases.
Budget cut is so difficult. I mean, when I started in 2011 at the Department of Revenue, we had the $6 billion projected deficit. It is so hard to manage government and to manage budgets. So for the biennium, with those kind of deficits looking at you, obviously, I mean, you're making really you have to make drastic changes in either your revenue and or your expenditures or your spending to make that balance come out. And that's a hard way to run government.